Hey everyone, you're watching Luxurious Tale. If you enjoy rich, emotional stories with powerful twists, kindly hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's dive straight into today's story. Elena Carter grew up believing that love was something earned through loyalty and shared struggle, not luck or fairy tales. She met Julian Brooks when both of them were still trying to escape the quiet suffocation of their small hometown, a place where everyone knew your past and expected your future to look exactly the same. Julian was ambitious, always talking about the life he wanted, but never quite sure how to reach it. Elena, however, was different. She worked relentlessly, first through nursing school and later through countless hospital rotations, often returning home exhausted, but still hopeful. Their bond grew out of survival rather than comfort. When Elena's mother fell ill and medical bills piled up, Julian promised never to leave her side. That promise rooted itself deep in her heart, becoming the foundation of every sacrifice she would later make. They planned their lives together in whispered conversations at night, mapping out futures that felt too big for their surroundings. Elena believed their love was indestructible because it had already survived poverty, loss, and uncertainty. When Elena received an offer to work as a nurse in the United States, the decision tore her apart. The opportunity was everything she had worked for, yet it meant leaving Julian behind. Julian encouraged her to go, reminding her of their dreams and insisting the separation would be temporary. Elena cried the night before her departure, clinging to him as if distance itself were a living thing trying to tear them apart. She promised she would work hard, save every possible dollar, and bring him over so that they could finally live the life they had imagined. Julian kissed her forehead and swore his loyalty, telling her that no amount of distance could weaken what they shared. Elena carried those words with her onto the plane, believing they were unbreakable vows rather than fragile hopes. Life in America was nothing like Elena had imagined. The hospital corridors were cold, the shifts brutal, and the loneliness overwhelming. She worked double shifts, sometimes triple, sleeping only a few hours between jobs. She sent money home faithfully, always reminding Julian that everything she did was for us. While her body weakened under exhaustion, her resolve strengthened. She endured racial prejudice, isolation, and physical pain, convincing herself it was all temporary. Every sacrifice made sense as long as Julian was waiting for her. She ignored her declining health, skipped meals, and swallowed painkillers just to stay on her feet. At night, she replayed Julian's promises in her mind, letting them lull her into restless sleep. Years passed in the blur of work and discipline. Elena became known among her colleagues as tireless and dependable, the nurse who never complained and always covered extra shifts. She saved aggressively, refusing luxuries, and even sent money to support Julian's supposed business ideas back home. Julian praised her dedication during video calls, always assuring her that he was preparing for their future. When Elena finally told him she had saved enough to bring him to the United States, Julian reacted with overwhelming excitement. Their reunion at the airport was emotional, filled with tears and long embraces that drew attention from strangers. Elena believed the hardest part of her journey was finally over. Living together again felt like a reward for all Elena's suffering. She continued working tirelessly while Julian adjusted to life in the United States, exploring opportunities and learning the system. They spoke often about investing back home, building something tangible that would secure their future. It was Julian's idea to build a mansion, a symbol of how far they had come. Elena hesitated, but eventually agreed, trusting his judgment. She made sure her name appeared on every document, a decision she barely thought about at the time. Construction began, and Julian volunteered to travel back and forth to oversee the project. Elena supported the idea, unaware that distance was quietly re-entering their relationship, this time disguised as responsibility. Julian's trips became more frequent, and his calls less affectionate. Elena noticed changes she tried desperately to rationalize. He sounded distracted, sometimes irritated, often unavailable. When she asked questions, Julian accused her of being insecure, reminding her of all they had sacrificed together. Elena blamed herself, assuming stress and exhaustion were clouding her judgment. She worked harder, sent more money, and avoided confrontation. Deep down, however, Unease settled into her chest like a persistent ache. The truth arrived not through Julian, but through Nathan Cole. Nathan had been Julian's closest friend for years, a quiet observer who had always treated Elena with respect. One evening, Nathan called her unexpectedly, his voice heavy with hesitation. He told her about Julian's secret relationship back home, about wedding plans already in motion, and about how Elena's money was funding it all. The words shattered Elena's reality. She felt physically ill, struggling to breathe as Nathan explained everything he knew. He apologized repeatedly, explaining that his conscience would not allow him to stay silent any longer. Elena did not scream or cry immediately. She sat in silence long after the call ended, replaying every memory, every promise, every sacrifice. When the pain finally surfaced, it was sharp and consuming, yet strangely clarifying. She realized that everything she had endured had not broken her. It had prepared her. Instead of confronting Julian over the phone, she booked a flight back home. She made one bold decision that would redefine her life. She would not beg, accuse, or explain. She would simply show up. The wedding day arrived wrapped in celebration and expectation. Guests filled the venue, dressed in elegance and anticipation. Julian stood confidently at the altar beside Vivian Harrington, smiling as if he had never known betrayal. Then the doors opened. Elena walked in wearing a stunning white gown, her presence commanding silence. Gasps rippled through the congregation as she moved gracefully down the aisle, her expression calm, almost serene. Julian froze, unable to process what he was seeing. Elena did not look at him once. Instead, Elena turned toward Nathan, who stood among the guests in shock. In a clear, steady voice, she thanked him publicly for his honesty and integrity. Then she did the unthinkable. She proposed to him, right there, in front of everyone. The priest, recognizing profound justice unfolding, agreed to officiate. Nathan, overwhelmed and emotional, accepted. The ceremony transformed instantly, leaving Julian exposed and humiliated without Elena ever uttering a single accusation. The aftermath was devastating for Julian. Elena quietly sold a mansion she legally owned, leaving him with nothing. His visa status collapsed, his new bride disappeared with his remaining assets, and his health deteriorated rapidly. A sudden medical emergency left him paralyzed, abandoned in a care facility, forced to confront the consequences of his betrayal alone. Elena returned to the United States with Nathan, not as a woman seeking revenge, but as one who had reclaimed her dignity. Their marriage grew from respect, honesty, and shared values. Elena found peace she had never known before, building a family grounded in trust rather than illusion. Her journey proved that integrity always outlives deception, and that sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply choosing a better life. Elena's life with Nathan unfolded gently at first, like a landscape healing after storm. They returned to the United States without fanfare, choosing quiet over celebration, privacy over spectacle. Elena resumed her work at the hospital, but this time something inside her had shifted. She no longer worked from desperation or fear of losing someone she loved. She worked with purpose and balance, rediscovering the passion that had first drawn her to nursing. Nathan encouraged rest, insisted on shared meals, and listened when she spoke about the scars she carried from years of emotional neglect. For the first time in her adult life, Elena felt safe enough to be vulnerable without being afraid that honesty would be used against her. Their home became a place of peace rather than endurance, a space where laughter slowly replaced the constant tension she had once mistaken for love. Nathan proved himself not through grand gestures, but through consistency. He showed up when he promised, spoke the truth even when it was uncomfortable, and never minimized Elena's past pain. He understood that betrayal left echoes, and he was patient when Elena woke from nightmares or grew quiet on days memories resurfaced. He reminded her, gently but firmly, that she was not broken, only human. Together, they built routines that nurtured trust, weekly walks, shared prayers, long conversations late into the night. Love, Elena realized, was not supposed to feel like a test of endurance. It was supposed to feel like rest. Meanwhile, the ripples of Julian's downfall continued to spread. News reached Elena through distant acquaintances, though she never sought it out. His paralysis confined him to a narrow world of hospital rooms and care facilities, a sharp contrast to the grand life he had envisioned. Vivian Harrington vanished entirely, taking what little remained of his resources and leaving no trace behind. Friends who once praised his ambition distanced themselves, unwilling to be associated with disgrace. Julian spent long hours alone, replaying memories of Elena's quiet devotion, realizing too late the value of what he had destroyed. Regret became his constant companion, heavier than the physical limitations he now endured. Elena did not celebrate Julian's suffering, but she did not mourn it either. She had learned that justice did not require cruelty, only clarity. Her peace came from knowing she had acted with dignity, refusing to compromise her integrity even when deeply wounded. When guilt occasionally crept in, Nathan reminded her that consequences were not the same as revenge. Elena began speaking at small nursing conferences, sharing her experiences about resilience, boundaries, and self-worth. She never mentioned names, but her story resonated deeply with others who had given too much of themselves to people who never intended to give back. As the years passed, Elena and Nathan grew closer, their bond deepening through shared trials and small victories. They faced challenges, career pressures, health scares, moments of doubt, but they faced them together, openly and honestly. When Elena became pregnant, fear mingled with joy. She worried about repeating patterns, about trusting fully again. Nathan held her through every anxious moment, reassuring her that they were building something different, something intentional. The birth of their child marked a profound turning point for Elena. Holding her baby, she understood that love could be gentle and strong at the same time. Motherhood softened Elena without weakening her. She became more selective with her energy, more protective of her peace. Her career advanced steadily, but she no longer sacrificed her well-being for approval or validation. Nathan continued to support her ambitions while pursuing his own, their partnership rooted in mutual respect rather than competition. Their home echoed with warmth, laughter, and the comforting predictability of trust. Elena often reflected on how close she had come to losing herself entirely, and how choosing courage over bitterness had saved her. Julian's condition worsened with time, complications compounding with paralysis. Isolated and forgotten, he finally reached out to Elena through a handwritten letter, filled with apologies and regret. Elena read it once, slowly, then folded it away. She did not respond. Closure, she realized, did not require reopening wounds or revisiting pain. Forgiveness, for her, meant letting go of the need to explain herself to someone who had already chosen not to listen. She wished him no harm, but she owed him nothing. Elena's story eventually became one of quiet inspiration. Friends and colleagues admired her strength, but she knew her true victory was internal. She had learned to trust her intuition, to demand honesty, and to walk away from anything that required her to abandon herself. Nathan remained her constant, proving daily that love rooted in respect could withstand time and hardship. Together, they raised their family with intention, teaching their children the value of integrity, kindness, and accountability. In moments of reflection, Elena no longer focused on betrayal, but on growth. She understood that her past had shaped her without defining her. The pain she endured had refined her strength, clarified her values, and led her to a love that honored her worth. Her life, once driven by sacrifice alone, now flowed with balance and purpose. She had learned that sometimes the most shocking endings give birth to most peaceful beginnings, and that choosing yourself is not an act of selfishness, but a survival. That's the end of the story. What did you learn about the story? Please leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories. Thanks for watching.